from 40 points down under the master find a way. They find a way. In trouble but not gone.
Welcome to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of professional punters. I'm your host, Scoot, and I'm joined by MG, the kid. We're up and about, or at least I'm up and about this week. Find a way, and didn't the Hawks find a way? I am absolutely back. I was down a bottle or a litre of Grey Goose, and we doubled or nothing, and I'm out of jail. Mark Goodwill, welcome to the show.
Yeah, it was unfortunate because I'd started sipping into my bottle of Goose at half time after you texted me and said, now you're up 2. So I'm actually minus 1 bottle because I finished it in the second half watching Essendon, just deplorable in the second half. They're in for a long year.
It was a game of two halves, and I was there at the game, and pardon me, the $2 pies were absolutely sensational. 420's doing a nice little welcome back to the fans, $2, but everything else is pretty expensive there. But I managed to drink about 10 schooners behind the glass in the Medallion Club, and we didn't even bother going to our seats. We just had pole position right in line with the centre bounce there, and I did see Stephen Hawking walk past a couple of times, and lucky there was a panel of glass between us, that's for sure.
Yeah, you're a brave man. I did contact you at halftime just to make sure you hadn't left the building already, but you did say the game wasn't over and you were just going to sip the beers and see how the second half played out. And I'll tell you what, you're all over the Texas in the last quarter, and it was a good effort to get up. Unfortunate for the Sting punters, couldn't get the 1-39, which they were cheering the other way at half time, trying to keep them in the 1-39, ended up losing the game the other way. So sometimes it doesn't roll for the punters.
Yeah, it was an interesting play. You sort of got a little bit greedy there. Didn't want to take the $1.90 line, the plus 2.5. That could have saved you, but then you've gone for the 260. I think long term, I like your angle there. Something a little bit different. And yeah, I can remember a professional punter from Tasmania named George who used to absolutely smash me around when I was a bookmaker on those 40-plus margins and margins on the outsider. Notable omission today, Darcy Spinks. We've absolutely killed it. We've had the Money Valley Knights, the SA boys, want a hat full of money, but Darcy, one live stream and she's out of the country. Well, she's not out of the country. She's gone to Brisbane.
Yeah, she's missing in action. Last time we did see her was Friday night.
She was getting swamped by the live audience.
Yeah, she put in a request Monday to Little Birdie HR department that she needed a rest for the week, and she's headed north.
I think about 5 or 6 guys tried to get a number or gave her their number at least.
Yeah, unfortunately, she gave the old trick. She gave mine out.
You've been coughing it, have you?
And got a few strange calls on the Saturday. So thanks for that, Das. That was good.
No slipper. I rang you Saturday morning and you were in the cab on the way to the airport. It was a miracle of life that I'd actually woken up. And I rang you and I said, Mark, you got to turn around, mate. The races are off. PVL and the boys up there, they've pulled the pin at, 10-8 on Saturday morning. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it wasn't kind. Backing up from the Friday night, I was a little dusty after having a few beers. Was arriving at the airport and you've called me. I thought you were going to give you some instructions for the day, and you've told me to turn around and go back to sleep. So had to deal with all the airlines and the hotels before the races and the footy kicked off Saturday. So, we do it all again this week.
At least COVID have softened all the airlines, and they've got a little bit of wriggle room for requests like that. And I think the racing people would have just torn the hotel down if there wasn't any sort of refund. So you're back up at the slipper this week, and I guess the upside was you watched a lot of footy. It was you've gone wall to wall in the football, but I guess you missed the early part of the round. You were absolutely on fire. You're all over Richmond. They got a backdoor cover. The Western Bulldogs, you've been spruiking for weeks. That was sensational. They look up at about, their premiership odds have shrunk. I think they've been $13 into $9.50 off the back of one win. All of a sudden, the market started to clue on, and I did see some footage of Jamar Ugle-Hagan just absolutely take some screamers.
Kick 5, didn't he?
In the Rezzies.
Yeah.
Wasn't he good? He's going to be, I can just see him getting cuddled for the first couple of weeks, and then he'll be a nice spark up forward. Surely they have to play him this year, don't they?
Well, I think there's an extra motivation, unfortunately, with Rao going down for the Rising Star. Your man might take centre stage in the betting there. He might be a big chance to win it now. So the way he's tracking, he will get some games. I just think they'll still take the soft approach with him. But if the form's there, they're still struggling for goals a little. I think that wasn't a great standard game on Friday night of what we saw about it. So they might need some more offense, and he'll be in soon. They'll definitely give him a run, but I will give. It was good tipping a winner on the Friday night, being in a live audience. Everyone wanted to speak to you. There was pats on the back. I didn't realise that at the time that it didn't line up with the event. And if Colin would have got up, I might have had a few kicks in the shins. So it was positive that the Bulldogs got the win and I got out alive in Moonee Valley. It was good.
And you limped over the line. You showed a profit for the first week?
Yeah, just limped in. We've spoken about Essendon. That was probably a decent swing for us that would have made it a nice solid week. Punters got a show, but overall the market's moved our way. Thought we read it pretty well for round one, which is a bit of guesswork involved. So, we move on to round two now.
Let's talk about a new segment, or we might start each show with a sting in the tail. We've sort of already done it, but we just haven't given the segment a name. So it's a little bit of a venting session for us. We'll call it Sting in the Tail. Mark's the AFL Stings, and he can sort of bounce back and forth with me on, I guess, the big issues of the day, the week, sorry. We won't go too far into it because a lot of it's been done in mainstream media talk, but the umpires, I thought the umpires, especially in the Essendon Hawthorn game, and I was surrounded by Essendon supporters, they were pretty average, I would have thought. Any line ball call inside 50, Essendon got a lot of cheapies, I would have thought.
Yeah,
the umpires.
I think... I'm not into necessarily umpire bashing as a general rule. I understand the role they've got in the game and stuff. I think it's more centred around how not only Steve Hocking but the AFL set them up, and I think that's the disappointing aspect. They just demand too much of the umpires in what is a very difficult game to process.
Yeah.
And it's a faster moving game now, so the umpires, in theory, of what their feedback is they always say how hard it is to umpire at the best of times. Now they've got a faster game and you're putting in rules that they've got to make judgment calls on. So I just don't understand, they almost setting the umpires up to fail, and they build, in my opinion, the crowd's angst against the umpires. And I don't think it's great theatre for the game.
No.
Because the conversations a lot of time when games finish is a crucial for or against decision that can decide games, and that sets up the umpire bashing.
Yeah.
So I don't understand why the AFL make their
job
harder. It just doesn't make sense. I'd rather games walk away, especially fans, Hawthorn or Essendon, walk away from that game
What a game.
saying, what a game. Hawthorn obviously got away with the win. Essendon disappointed, they go with a big lead. But let's not talk about any umpiring decisions that, 50-metre penalties or dropping the balls or that could decide the game.
A clear example for me was GWS versus St Kilda. That late bump. And I think Cal Ward tried to kick it. He was in the motion of kicking. He got bumped. There's a couple of angles there.
It's play on.
Well, it should have been probably play on. But then again, with this new head clash thing with Dangerfield that we can talk on a little bit, well, if he bumps heads and he's bumped, well, he should probably look at weeks. But then all of a sudden the umpire's given it as a free kick. Like, it's going to be very confusing, isn't it?
Yeah, well, now it's...
I'm confused.
Yeah, well, I mean, we spoke about this earlier, how minute it comes down to now is that he gives the bump. He was lucky to get the free kick. The umpire, the AFL actually come out and admitted, which is rare, that they made a mistake. But, if he head clashes in that situation based on what we've seen with Dangerfield, does Ward get the free kick and then St Kilda maybe don't win the game? Instead, he gets the free kick and kicks the sealer, and he's on the hero side of St Kilda. So it's very hard to judge, and again, I just think the rules are making it very difficult, and the fans get the angst from it.
And still from that game, Himmelberg, they got the missed shot there.
Yeah, the goal kicking, listen, I just don't understand the goal kicking in AFL, and, I'm not alone here. This has been going on for too long, and I think pretty much, you can see it from at least the last 10 years, and probably for the 2000s onwards, that for whatever reason, the coaches collectively refuse to acknowledge. Whenever they're asked about this, we get the same feedback. It's the fitness staff, it's the quick handballs. They don't want to, take any responsibility for it. Now, if I'm a coach with a team that kicks poorly, like Melbourne last year, Essendon last year, and you miss the 8, and you go back and review the year, what's the difference in not getting there? It's kicking.
Yeah.
And
Essendon, you could argue that Harrison Jones, he missed, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 shots that were absolutely critical. Essendon nearly kicked themselves out of the contest. If he kicks a couple of those goals, it's a different story, and Essendon win the game.
Yeah, you're getting into a first gamer. He
looked nervous.
He did look nervous, but he's a first gamer, and he obviously wanted to. Kicking the first goal is a big thing in AFL. I don't think his kicks were that bad. Like, he kicked them straight. He was just missing.
It was like a drunken pirate.
Deer in the headlights.
Very kind.
Yeah. I'd look at more Hooker's miss was crucial. Top of the square, seriously, 15 metres out. It's like a golfer missing a foot putt, we walk around the golf course and, you love the gimmies inside a foot. It's the same as an AFL footballer, seriously kicking a goal inside 20 metres, unless you're on the boundary. And even if you're on the boundary, seriously, why do these guys want to kick the ball 50 metres when they're next to the point post. The ball has to go 8 to 10 metres over the goal umpire's hat.
Yeah.
So why do they pull out the driver? I just don't understand this, and they do it all the time. So where's the coaching coming to these players? If they can't work it out themselves, the forward coach, the head coach, whoever's directing this, it's a chip shot. Why do they need to kick it third row of the stands? I just don't understand it. So over the weekend we had Hooker, Himmelberg, Rioli missed some from Richmond, even Martin, and then Harry Mackay playing on late in the third quarter when they're 3 points down.
Unbelievable.
From inside 5 or 7 metres.
Yep.
Well, as a full forward, you can't go back and kick that goal.
Well, and I saw like a similar situation. It scared the absolute life out of him. It was when Tim O'Brien took that late mark, and then all of a sudden I see him get it like snap it around the corner. If you're playing forward, I'm sorry, if you're on that angle, you should just be going back and, as you say, chipping it over the top, and it should just be an absolute layup. It should be like a free throw in the NBA circles. But like, what you look at it at golf. Do you reckon they practice their putting? Putting's the most crucial part of the game. Tennis, you know about that. The serve.
Yep.
How crucial is a big serve in tennis? It's up.
Yeah, I mean, you don't hear Roger Federer saying he lost a game because he hasn't practiced his serving throughout a tournament. Golfers are exactly the same. I mean, when they finish rounds, they go back out and practice again. And the AFL footballers are reporting saying they're maybe not getting 20 kicks at goal during a week. And their job as a forward is to what? Kick goals.
Yeah, and Ryan Pappenhausen, he's seamlessly taken over the kicking in the Melbourne Storm. So it goes to show that if you put the extra work into your kicking, you're going to get the results. Like, these guys are well below par. And I think it's absolutely a great point that you talk about. Let's quickly talk about the Dangerfield rule. Marking contest, there's going to be occasions where players tackle that accidentally headbutt another player. When people get rammed into another player, they've opened Pandora's box here. I don't know how they're going to continue to police this without getting fans really riled up here. It's going to be so inconsistent, and I just hope it doesn't cost a side a premiership or a key player, key finals. But I guess they're rules on the run, AFL. So once it gets to a critical stage when, if this was Dangerfield in round 22, would he have copped a fine or a week or gotten off, or what happens there? Because it's a dog's breakfast at the moment.
I know what happened in round 22, and it'll probably happen this week anyway, but Dangerfield, if Geelong were going into the finals round 22, he'd appeal. And he'd get let off for sure, because there's no way they would leave Dangerfield out of the finals. And he'll probably appeal today. I can't imagine Dangerfield. He loves being on the front and back pages he loves his head on the TV. So he'll pay the $10,000 himself just so he can plead his case again. Whether he gets off, it might even be downgraded. They might just look after him a bit and call it 1 or 2 weeks. They've made the statement now. On appeal, they might just downgrade it a little, give him 1 or 2, and soften the approach again. That's what they do. But listen, and this ties in with the Dangerfield incident, with the medical sub-rule, which we've talked about, and I know all the media and everything, and we've heard a lot of coaches afterwards saying, oh yeah, there's a really good rule and stuff. The only reason the coaches like the rule is because they're not a man down and they don't have to coach harder to fill gaps and change their game plans and stuff. If they were serious about player welfare, then why aren't strategies taking place where all players are forced to wear helmets?
Yeah.
Like, if the concussion rule is so detrimental to the game and the players afterwards, and what guys like Peter Jester, the ex-player manager, is campaigning for, then how come... I've heard nothing in the media. I'm not sure whether you want to weigh in on this. Have you ever heard mandatory helmets as being an option?
No,
it's never been trialled at any stage. And, wouldn't that be the first? In COVID, we were forced to wear face masks late, but, surely the helmets is along those lines. And if we're looking after the head, and this is a 360-degree game, and unfortunately head clashes are going to occur.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, whether you thought Dangerfield meant it or not, or he should have tackled or whatever, head clashes are going to occur, and we saw many of them during the first round, and they'll end up being 50 to 100 over the season. So my question is to the AFL, how come helmets aren't compulsory?
Or trial them in the off-season.
Correct.
They trial everything else and then move the rules on the run as is. So maybe the players need to look at that. But I don't know. There'd be probably a fair bit of blowback from the players. I know as a young kid, I didn't really want to wear a helmet. And
no, that's true. But are we about protecting the head? You can't get on TV or try to campaign that saying, player welfare and protecting the head's paramount and stuff. Coaches trot it out at every media conference they can. Then how come players aren't protected by wearing some form of headgear? Surely that's a quick fix.
Well, yeah, it's a funny one, and they've got the 12-day rule with the concussion. Is that just like plucked from thin air?
It is. what's the medical science at 12 days? Surely it's player to player. You can't tell me, a McCartan who's had a lot of concussions, if he came back, for example, and got a concussion this year, he only has to sit out 12 days, as opposed to a player who has never had concussion gets the same treatment. I just don't think that equates. I don't think you can have one rule for everyone, and I don't think they're strong enough on this stance either. I think, if you get one concussion in a year, I think it could be medically more 3 to 4 weeks, and I would say if you get 2 concussions out for the year, should you sit out the rest of the year?
Side away.
I mean, if it's that damaging to the human brain, are we looking after it or not? And if you're not built for AFL and you keep getting concussions, then unfortunately the game's not for you.
Exactly.
What
about Matt Rowell? His injuries.
Unlucky.
It seemed pretty innocuous. Maybe he's not built for the rigours of AFL.
No, some players aren't. I mean, you see a lot of top-rated kids coming in from junior footy and they dominate because they can't get tackled, they don't get touched. And then when they get against bigger bodies and men, and they're falling on differently, which is what Rao was. And this is it looked pretty innocuous at the time. And I thought it was more his ankle when he actually first got rolled up on, and he ends up doing his knee. So bad luck for the kid, because everyone wants to see him play after what he did last year, and now it looks like he's got to sit out for half of this year. And unfortunately with that, I think the Gold Coast years, their chances of making the finals are done.
The M word, you mentioned it before, masks. The masks are off in Melbourne on Friday. Not sure why they've still been on. It is farcical, really, but we had 50,000 last week, and then 5 days later, we can have 75,000. Why not 100,000? This is just absolutely crazy. We're thinking about, or trying to get to the Bull for the races, and they've got a 12,000 cap per day down at the Bull, but they're just pulling numbers out of thin air, aren't they?
Well, you saw your two mates, ScoMo and Gill, having beers at the footy the other day. So I guess their policies are the same. They just go on the run, decide whatever they want. Who knows how they're heeding advice? But 2 weeks apart, to have basically a crowd of 50,000 at the G, and after next week it'll be 75, and then the week after it'll be open slather to 100. What is the difference? And what is the difference about going to a game where there's 50,000 to 100 if you walk past someone? I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me.
It's crazy, and you've got when I went to the games, all the gates and everything is sectioned off, so they can control the limited crowd and the flow of crowd. But again, like, I walk past people outside. I've never seen more police when I've crossed the bridge there from the train station at Spencer Street to then go into Gate 9 at the Medallion Club last week. There was cops everywhere. I think I've passed 20 cops, and I've never seen that. So I'm not sure what they're doing there. Everyone was, hunky-dory, but the over-policing, I just couldn't get my head around. But the crowd thing, 100%. The clubs vitally need this money, and all the fans are desperate to go. Another thing that I don't like at the moment is the AFL have only put the times in until round 6. Like, that's crazy. In the NRL, they've scheduled the whole year, and hats off to them, Peter V'landys, NRL. They've got one up on the AFL here. Tried to book an interstate flight to figure out when I was going to go watch the game. I nearly accidentally just assumed that the time was correct, and I could have been flying home at halfway of the game. It would have been a complete disaster for the kids and my old man, but no one can plan anything, and the country's sort of going backwards for tourism dollar, and we can't move overseas. We're sort of locked in our own country. We want to get around the country and spend some money, help everyone out, but we can't do it because the AFL are, waiting for the WA government? What's the answer there? I don't know, but you're not going to get real critique because the Fox footy stuff with Dangerfield, the way they've handled that, it's a closed shop.
It's a bit lazy on the AFL side.
It's a shocker.
To do the fixture for the whole year is, I'm not saying it's an easy thing to do, but they do it every year. They could have just rolled out the fixture, and then if COVID happens, then they readjust. They've got to go the other way. They've got to encourage everyone to get to games and plan, as you said. You want to, families and that want to do school holidays and everything around. They want to book in tickets and go. And as you were doing the other day, you said there was a 1 o'clock game. I can make a 5 o'clock flight. And I thought the 1 o'clock game was a bit weird, and then the whole round was on the same day at 1 o'clock. So I think it's a bit unusual. I think the AFL could easily just put out the whole season, and if COVID does take hold of the fixture again, then they just revert back. I think that's a much easier process, but that's the AFL's approach. We can't do much about it. Apparently it's coming out round 4.
Yeah.
Did you say the next block?
Round 4 is the next block of time.
Yeah. So then it only allows you 2 or 3 weeks.
And then all the flights are pretty much gone to bugger anyway, so he probably can't go. Anyway, another issue to solve there for the AFL. But we're going to have a quick look at round one. What did the upsets mean? We've got round two AFL. MG is going to go through the blockbuster games. We've got NRL, Top Rope Tedeschi, and a cracking Hall of Fame this week. And then the guys are going to talk about their lock of the week. Only Mark landed the first blow. Richmond Tigers, $1.33 to $1.22, and Top Rope. He was on the steal a little bit. He needs a stallion chain this week. He tipped the Warriors, which went over. It's going to be a big show, and we're brought to you by topsport.com.au. They're family owned and run for over 30 years. The Merlihan family up at the Gold Coast do a fabulous job. They are the biggest betting bookie. Make sure you check them out and give them a go. They will not reject your bets. They are doing the right thing by the punters, and make sure you support them. Up next, we'll talk AFL. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting. I'm your host, Scoot, and I've got MG, the kid, reviewing AFL Round 1 action. Richmond Carlton, first thoughts on that game?
Yeah, well, it was actually read pretty good looking back at the podcast, the feedback that we got. Richmond just got the job done and pretty much landed on the line. The line closed 25, and that's actually what they won on. I know they got a couple of late goals, but they just looked like they had a gear, and Carlton played pretty well. I like Carlton going forward. Richmond disown them.
Yeah, when they get back to full strength, definitely Carlton look good. What about Collingwood Western Bulldogs there? We touched upon it just earlier, but bit substandard, the actual contest, but there's a lot to like about the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I think my early take on Collingwood, and probably going back from last year, I just think they drag sides now down to a low level, and I would expect Collingwood to play in a lot of low-scoring games this year. So I think the Bulldogs were maybe a bit restricted, and Collingwood would try not to get blown out maybe.
Yep.
So it's not a good form game, in my opinion. I'm worried about Collingwood, but the Bulldogs going forward, they should be okay.
And the D's ground out a win against Freo wasn't a great standard.
No, this is probably one of the worst standard games for the week. I know it's round one, so we'll give them a pass. But watching this replay was there was a bit of fast forwarding going on because a lot of turnovers. Both average sides for mine.
Now, a little bit of a mistake here, perhaps. Adelaide Crows. You've tipped them up for the spoon, and all of a sudden, bang, they've come out and beat the Cats. How does that happen, and what does it actually mean? Do you take much into that?
Well, I do, because I've taken Adelaide under 6.5 wins for the year, and I've given up one to the second favourite. So it's not an ideal start for me. And even watching the game, I thought Geelong were going to get over them, and even near the end, they still had a chance. Adelaide just played out of their mind for long enough to hang on. Unbelievable upset at home. They'll be buoyed by that win in Geelong against Brisbane this week. They'll have to bounce back.
They got a couple of problems now, don't they, Geelong? They got Dangerfield and then Cameron's hamstring. Yeah. Cameron's hamstring. What about Brisbane-Sydney? Another amazing upset. I was at the Hawthorn-Essendon game and couldn't believe my eyes.
Yeah, this was a high standard game for mine. Very good form rating. I thought both sides played really well. Sydney played unbelievable, real high rating for mine. And a big win going up to Brisbane. And I look forward to see how Sydney back it up this week with their young players.
Two on the trot and Buddy back.
Buddy, he might lift them. It'll be interesting to see the young players if they get around Buddy, if they grow another leg, go another gear. It'll
be interesting to see how he goes with the 50-metre rule, because I saw a couple of times
he'll run straight past the man on the mark, won't he?
Exactly. So if the man on the mark's on the 50 line, Buddy will just be on the arc on the move and then hit that extra 5 or 8 metres that he can creep. He could kick a heap more goals.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see the big bud back. He's obviously on in age, but it'll be a good week this week. It'll be a good game to watch too, I reckon.
Kangas Port Adelaide. I really fear for Kangaroos. I saw one of their absolute stalwarts. I think it was like a statistician who had been working for the club for the last 20 years, and he tweeted out and said, "Hang your head in shame, Kangaroo supporters. Only 13,000 rocked up to Kangaroos Port." I can't blame them for not turning up, but it's going to be a bleak year for the Roos, isn't it?
Yeah, they got problems on and off the field. Unfortunately, the on, which we'll concentrate, they were they had a crack. They just don't have the manpower, and unfortunately, that's one of the best sides they can put out. So as the year goes on, maybe the bookies had this right, having them so short for the wooden spoon. Now that Adelaide have got one on the books, I just can't see the Kangaroos getting too many wins. Port just done what they had to. They ran away in the second half. They got good signs, Port.
GWS and St Kilda, not a bad win on the road for the Saints, undermanned.
Yeah, I thought the standard was pretty good in the wet. It rained most of the game. Massive win for St Kilda. We spoke about their injuries going in, and that was probably the slight pot on them. We did mention that GWS aren't a great side in the wet. Last week's preview. So I think that holds true. So just going forward, every time GWS play in the wet, I would bet warily.
And then West Coast, Gold Coast cleared out the round, and Matt Rowell's a big talking point out of that one. But they got the job done, didn't they? The Eagles, they looked all right.
Yeah, they looked all right. They got the job done. I don't think they really got out of a gear. Soon as Gold Coast kind of lost Row, they're up against it. They just don't have the players to cover Row, and I think they're going to struggle to make the 8 this year.
Interesting, very amazing upsets there. So you're on fire early, like if you weren't backing the first couple of winners, Richmond and the Western Bulldogs, and having good bets into those and finding Port and having the balls to back them at the line, you would have had a really bleak start to the AFL betting round, that's for sure. The last few games were absolutely treacherous, and a couple of funny upsets, so it's going to be interesting to see who bounces back this week. Let's have a look at the blockbuster games as we do each week here. We've got Thursday night, we've got Carlton versus Collingwood at the G. Absolute corker here. We've got Magpies at 184, and then we've got Carlton $2. The line 2.5. Total 164.5 there. Not much movement here, Mark.
No, I think. I read this game a little different to the books. The bookies. I expect actually Carlton a chance to start favourite in this game. Not a massive call since the line's 2.5. Just going through the game, the way the side's set up. I thought Sard was very damaging for Carlton, and now he will be joined by Zach Williams this week. I just think they're going to have too much leg speed for Collingwood.
Yeah.
And just on the way the game should go, with ratings of points and stuff, I just think they'll outscore them and win the game. So I like Carlton in this game, and I'll be surprised if they don't start favourite come game time.
Could you see a blowout, 40 points?
Probably not 40, because I'm just going to stick with the thought process that Collingwood are going to play in a lot of low-scoring games. So if I was betting at this stage, I'd probably tend to back the under. I know it's at mid-160s, which is not huge. There's no weather around. I just think they're going to play a lot of low games. I just don't think they play any other way, Collingwood. They struggle up forward. So, but I like Carlton in this game.
A favourite bet type of mine used to be any team under or over 15.5 points. So you can take Carlton by more than 15.5 or Collingwood by more than 15.5, or then either under 15.5. Is that a market that you ever play into?
Yes. Yeah, I've got no issue with backing Carlton over 15.5. Same with the 24.5. Depends on what you like, and especially if you get a close game. I think
30-point spread's pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the value's there for you. So, I'd bet Carlton with a bit of confidence in this game.
Absolute blockbuster on Friday night. You've got the Cats versus the Lions. We've got Geelong $1.61. They're a slight drifter, 159 out to 161, 235 the Lions, and the Lions 8.5 there, total 170.5. Thoughts here? We've already spoken about the problems for the Cats. Two big outs. Dangerfield, and then Cameron's got the hamstring, so all of a sudden their forward line is vulnerable.
Yeah, I'm just going to wait in this game. I think it's I think it might be an interesting betting game with Cameron out. He's a bigger loss than Dangerfield maybe in this game, because Radagalia's out, so all the attention goes to Hawkins. With Andrews playing on Hawkins, they might be able to control the forward line a bit better. I think Brisbane at the +8 represents a bit of value, but I'm hesitant to back against Geelong at home. Their record's too good, and I think that's a fast way of going broke if you want to play against the Cats down at Skilled Stadium. So if I was going to play in this game and you like a team, I'd back the 1 to 39, and I'd probably just wait and see how Dangerfield shakes out.
I think the weather report looks pretty good for Geelong at this stage Friday. I think the weather's going to hit Melbourne on Saturday, and we're getting patchy rain down here. It's nothing like what you see up in Sydney or Brisbane, that is for sure. So maybe staying out of the Geelong-Brisbane game. Mark's a little bit under the weather. I was absolutely cactus all last week. There's some sort of it's a non-COVID flu that's sort of sweeping across Melbourne, and every second person that you talk to has got it. It's unbelievable. It's not that bad, but it's all this like congestion stuff. So hopefully we can get through the show and I don't kill Mark. The next game that we're going to talk about is the Western Bulldogs versus West Coast. This absolutely looks like a corker on Sunday afternoon. We've got the Bulldogs 160, West Coast Eagles 240, 8.5 is the line, and 174.5 at Marvel Stadium. This is outstanding. I'm going to be home by this stage from a little trip to Tassie, but I'm going to be locked into this match for sure.
Yeah, I think this could go close to the match of the round for mine. I think both sides are coming in off okay wins. I don't think they got out of their gears. I would lean to the Bulldogs just because they're at home. Again, not a big fan in backing West Coast away from home. The record obviously in Perth's dominant. Away from home still patchy. So my suggested bet would be maybe leaning to the Bulldogs at the line.
It's a small line, isn't it? And points can go on quickly, as we saw last week.
I would be backing the unders in this game. 174 seems a little high in my opinion. Bit fast game up and down, but I don't think there's a lot of scoring in this game. So 174 is a touch high.
Okay, let's look at the final game for the weekend. So it's going to be a blistering start to the AFL, and then the back half of the games are going to look really good here from a betting perspective. We've got Fremantle versus GWS Giants, 182 the Dockers, 202 the Giants, and the line 2.5. The under-over is 161.5. Fremantle coming off a lacklustre performance against Melbourne, and then GWS coming off that heavy deck there. What's your thoughts here, Mark?
I like GWS in this game, Scoot. I think, we actually tipped this on the Sting yesterday. I sent it out, just didn't want to miss the price. I think GWS will start favourite in the game against Freo. I don't understand why the bookies have lent Freo. I know they're at home. Clearly didn't watch the Freo-Melbourne game or the replay to come out with Freo favourite in this game. Really like GWS. I know they're off a wet track, might be the only issue going to a fast deck in Perth, but I'd like to have a decent bet in this game that the Giants start favourite come post time.
And they're nearly one of your best bets for the weekend, aren't they? GWS.
At this stage, they'd be my top 80, yeah.
Outstanding stuff. It's going to be a big week of AFL. We're going to jump into a new segment called Buy, Sell, Hold. And this will be a little bit of a look at the futures markets, some players, some teams, and we're going to go through who you should be buying, selling, or holding at this stage. We've obviously, on our first couple of episodes, if you want to switch back to those for the season of the AFL and NRL, we've had a look at all the futures markets. So if you want to see what we've tipped up for futures, make sure you go back to our first couple of episodes of Little Birdie podcast. You got Top Rope and MG's futures plays there. But let's have a look at the premiership market. We'll get some odds up on the screen now, and we've got the premiership odds. So Richmond 460, Mark.
Yeah, listen, you can't help but not be impressed by Richmond. I know they were beating probably their bunnies in Carlton again, but geez, their side only missing Cochin and Hooley. They just don't look like they've dropped off at all from last year. And with probably only 4 other sides that can win the comp, in my opinion. If you like Richmond, I just think with the next 2 rounds as well that they'll probably get to 3-0 before they've got a little tough stretch after that. But I just can't see now with both Geelong and Brisbane losing. I don't think their price is going to get too much bigger. So if you like Richmond, I'd probably buy in at the 460.
Yeah, they look like they're enjoying their footy, which is crucial. And you just touched upon Geelong and Brisbane. Off the back of those losses, 550 the Cats, 850 Brisbane. You did tip up Brisbane to win the flag after that first round. Is it too early to tell? Obviously, Cam Rayner's gone down, but are you buying or selling here?
I'm going to hold on both at this stage if I had a ticket on them. I'm going to look the other way with both these sides. I just think with the draw coming up, one of these teams is obviously going to be 0-2 unless there's a draw. But their next 3 and 4 week stretches for both teams are pretty soft. So I think they can get back ahead of the count. I know they're going to have to win their fair share of games to get to the top 4, but the loser of this game, especially if Brisbane, I think they'll get out to maybe $10 or $11 if they do lose this game. I'm probably going to reload.
Yep.
So I'm not jumping off either team at the moment. I know one's going to be 0-2, but I'd stick with both for now.
We bumped into a couple of SA troops that had made their way for the live stream last week, and one of the guys in the room had $5,000 on Port Adelaide at around $8, I think, the price he got there. But Port Adelaide are now into $6, which to me looks a touch skinny now, but they look okay, but they've only beaten the Kangas. Buy, sell, or hold?
If you've got your ticket, you're happy at the $8, and you're obviously holding. I'm certainly not buying at the $6. As you said, win over the Kangaroos. They've got Essendon this week. I'm not rushing in to buy here. They've got a real tough stretch through rounds 3 to 7. play a lot of good quality sides. So I think Port, you'll get a better price than the $6 at some stage before round 7.
Okay, who are you putting the pen through? Any big sells?
I'm not sure I'm putting the pen through necessarily, although I'm definitely selling. And, I know these are mid-table teams, but I can't have Melbourne at $21 and Collingwood at 26 or way under mine. I'd be staggered if any bookies are writing bets $26 at Collingwood. Even you with your money. You're not taking $26 Collingwood, in my opinion.
Okay, and then what about these 3 teams? West Coast, Western Bulldogs and St Kilda. Are they buys or holds at this stage?
No, they all got the wins, and I think you're pretty happy with all 3 of those at the moment. Obviously, 2 of them play each other this week, and I know I'm tipping against St Kilda, but I think St Kilda, they should make the 8. They've got a lot of injuries and stuff like that, so I'm holding all 3 of those.
What about the Hawkers? You buying the Hawks?
I didn't actually see
they got no forward line.
I didn't actually see them listed in the Premiership market. Were they on the next page?
No, they're they got no forward line. I was head in hands. It's going to be a miracle if we have to cherish that Essendon win because there's not many left in us. That's for sure. All right, let's kick across to the Brownlow market. We've got the market up on screen thanks to topsport.com.au, Australia's biggest betting bookmaker. We've got Brownlow market here. Who are your buys in the Brownlow markets? There'd be a couple of guys that are humming at the moment, only off the first game. But
yeah, well, Martin, they've obviously reacted to greatly, and he nailed on 3. I don't think there's any great surprise there. He's a standout and a very good side. I'm surprised Neil's got the drift that quickly for a side that
he's going to be in the top 4.
Yeah, and his record piling's outstanding. I think they've just reacted a bit too much. I'd be, if you're looking to bet there, 8.75 Neil's good. But Tracker's another one that keeps improving.
He's not going to have too many players take votes off him. Maybe Big Max.
It's the same guys. Oliver, Petrarca, Brayshaw, they were all there. Yeah. Esme was probably the 4th one in that round that got votes. But Petrarca at $19, he represents some value. I'm holding on Bontempelli. He's in a tough team, I get that. But he's going to be a bit like Martin to Richmond. But mine, when he plays good and McRae and all that around him, I think Bont gets the votes.
And then your sells are Nat Fyfe and Patrick Cripps. Wow, notable bowlers. Ball's on the line here.
Well, yeah, maybe. Well, we said in the lead up to the season that I wouldn't be touching these 2 at these prices. I know Fyfe's an unbelievable piler, but he's in a terrible side.
And not going to get the wins.
I don't think so. At 8.75, I'm quite happy with Neil and Fyfe at both 8.75. If Top Sports want to lay me a head-to-head, I know which one I'd be on. And Cripps at $10, I just think he's a bit beaten up, Cripps. I'm not sure he's travelling as well as people think. And he didn't pile on the weekend, so I'm not buying into Cripps either at the $10. I just think he's too short.
We've got Tom Lynch as the current favourite in the Coleman Medal with Tom Hawkins on $7. So Tom Lynch $6, Hawkins $7, Charlie Dixon $8, Joe Danaher $9.50. I can't believe my eyes. What I'm reading here on the run sheet, it says that you're all of a sudden on Orazio. Fantastic. You gave this guy in the preseason a massive bake, saying he's no good. He's never really done it yet. He needs to perform, and all of a sudden, off a practice match and 1 game, Mark, all of a sudden you're buying for the Coleman Medal. You got to be kidding me, mate.
I'll have to check the replay whether I gave him a bake or not. I said
he's yet to prove himself.
Yeah, that's true, because he hadn't got on the park.
Right.
Change of environment. A bit like Danaher. It might work for him. But I'm more impressed with the amount of shots he's had on goal. He's had 14 shots on goal in the last 2 games that he's played. I know one was a practice match, but he only played a half as well. He's just getting a lot of opportunities because he just doesn't have defenders running with him. And Port love to get the ball out the back. And that's his wheelhouse. So I'm not saying he can win the Coleman Medal. I'm not sure the last time a small forward won a Coleman.
But you'd spec him.
At 100 to 1, I think he's entitled to average maybe 2.5 goals. I know he's got to stay on the park, but
and maybe the state of the game's changed. Maybe it's going to suit these smaller forwards. I pray to God, being a Hawthorn supporter, that's true.
Yeah, it was a quiet week for the big forwards, but they'll come back obviously. The other one I just wanted to touch on at a bit of value is also Oscar Allen, which might surprise you out of West Coast. I'm not even sure you know who he is.
No, I know him.
Oh, you know him? Sweet.
Yeah, no. I saw him. He got a couple of goals early, or he was in the play early. But
Yeah,
I find that hard to believe with Josh Kennedy up forward and Jack Darling. Third rung down. I can't have him for the Coleman.
But I think the way that West Coast, watching the replay, the way West Coast set up is they were almost using Kennedy as a decoy. I'm not saying he's going to be a decoy for the whole year. Don't get me wrong. The big rooster will go back and say, Oscar, out of my way, seriously, got to earn my paycheck. But
he's improved. He's come on.
He might just chip away for long enough to have a little buy there at a big spec as well. You only have to average 3 goals and you're in the Coleman a week. He kicks straight too. He doesn't miss too many. So he's not like your mate Himmelberg.
And what about your sell here? The poor old Texan, he's just got himself back into form. He's kicked 5 snags against the Cats and you've got him as a sell. Nasty.
Please, $21.
That's fucking unders.
Hey?
He's missing a zero.
$21.
Charlie Cameron as well, $17.
Charlie Cameron worries me in the new setup with Brisbane. He's I'm not saying he's cracked the shits. He's a professional athlete, but his attitude's not great. And the coach needs to get around him quickly, I reckon, to get his head in the game because they're a much better side, obviously, with him up and firing. But the traffic's just not going through him anymore. Big Joey D's taken over that, and Hipwood needs his time as well. Cameron at $17, you can't entertain.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. If you want to jump onto Mark's action and get his early plays and get all his plays, with the free one that we're giving out this week is definitely GWS. He thinks that market will flip. He thinks the Fremantle form is a little bit average, so he's got a 3.5 unit play there. All subscribers are part of AFL Stings are already on board that one, but you can sign up for the rest of the 6 weeks, for the first 6 weeks of AFL season for $77. Head to Little Birdie Pod Shop to check that out. But if you're doing the form this week and for the ponies, one of our big sponsors is puntingform.com.au. You can actually buy the raw data. If you want to model your horse racing, you can buy the raw data there, or you can get an online subscription. You can use a black book service. They have got the lot, so make sure you drop the boys at puntingform.com.au a line, and they'll help you getting set on your betting journey, and you will become a smarter punter, that's for sure. Once people take it up, they don't usually go backwards, that's for sure. Up next, we're going to talk Hall of Fame with our favourite man of rugby league, not Peter V'landys. We've got Top Rope Tedeschi joining us from the flood-stricken New South Wales. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of professional punters. And there's no Darcy Spinks, she's sunning herself up in Brisbane. But Mark, the kid, MG Goodwill is here, and it's time for Hall of Fame, and it's Top Rope Tedeschi time. The Rugby League is up and about, and so is Nick Tedeschi. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks very much, Scooty. Up and about, exciting times. Exciting times for sport, really. It's footy seasons are back. How good is just time to be alive at the moment? Yeah, we're talking round 1 of the AFL, round 2 of the league, 2 in the book. It's the same rhythm for the rest of the year. How bloody good.
We are in gear, and the US Masters is just around the corner too, so we'll have to get Big Daddy Adam Fraser, and I know that you love the golf. Bryson's up and about, and you'll be up and about for all the golf action, so it's not long until we get to go to Augusta and watch the big boys roll around. Not sure how Tiger's doing. I think he's on the mend. But Hall of Fame. Let's talk Hall of Fame. Last week we put in Mark Wahlberg, who's done that absolute howling ad for Ladbrokes. Points better got one on Shaq. He couldn't be too far away, but a little nasty Hall of Fame nominee for me is Harrison Jones from Essendon. He's kicked the Bombers out of the game last week. That's, he's a possible contender given I'm a Horse supporter, and he was pivotal in getting us over the line. And we've already spoken about goal kicking early in the show. Another one, I could probably nominate Steve Fletcher. I don't know if everyone gets the Asian racing set amongst us 3 guys, but he tipped Sky Darcy, and I tell you what, Joe Moreira, Hall of Fame, Magic Man,
What a ride. On the fence.
Exactly. And $8, it was the perfect tonic right at the end of the weekend. There was a couple of sick beats throughout the weekend, so I reckon Fletcher's Asia set, which is just starting to hum, the last couple of weeks have been absolutely fat. I think they're in the running for the Hall of Fame. Who have you got this week, Top Rope?
Well, you know what, Scooty, you throw nominations up, and I haven't accepted any in the past. But, you know, I was gonna really indulge this week. I was gonna nominate Australian Matt Jones, who I managed to find at 80-1 to win the golf on the weekend. So and also managed a first round lead at 70-1. So I was going to really indulge in Matt Jones, who's quickly become my favourite Australian sportsman.
A little bit of trumpet playing early from top rope.
But I think we would be remiss not to put Fletch in there, wouldn't we? Yeah, his Asian set's flying. What a long history of great Australian moments from the great man. All he does is deliver winners left, right, and centre. So why do we put Fletch in?
Well,
that'd be the right thing to do, wouldn't it?
Might even fire in a protest, Mark. Money Valley Nights, we had Bagman and Eagle John Kelton turn a $50 unit into $80 return for the $50 invested. Surely that's a little bit of a protest there. Bagman and Eagle should nearly get in the Hall of Fame. Top rope, you get the final call.
I'll tell you this. The first time I've seen a protest against oneself fired into the stewards, but I'm going to stick with Fletch. I think the long-serving history. These guys, they put in again, they find a winner again, they get into the Hall of Fame. One shout, not getting into the Hall. Fletcher, all he does is tip winners. And not the worst Will Ferrell lookalike either. So there's your double. He's in.
Fletcher's Asian racing set has made the Hall of Fame. Steve Fletcher, the Get Out Stakes, late doors on Sunday afternoon. Sky Darcy saluting at $8 in the Hong Kong Derby. And I tell you what, it is one of the best punting cards of the calendar year in Hong Kong. The form just runs absolutely straight. And if you've got a good judge that does Hong Kong or Fletch or Hutch or someone like that, they absolutely just hit the line. I think Champions Day is in about a month's time. And I think I've locked myself in for a couple of beers with the great Clint Hutchison from Racing.com. So thoughts and prayers there, and we may even have little kick-ons here at the little Birdie lair. But Fletcher Asian set is a great addition to the Hall of Fame. We're going to take a little bit of a break, and we'll get back to rugby league, which is absolutely top rope Tedeschi's wheelhouse. There's some big stories in the NRL at the moment, and if you're doing your form on the weekend or in Hong Kong, puntingform.com.au is the best online database that you can find. It has 100-metre and 200-metre increments for all Hong Kong races. So if you want to get stuck into Hong Kong racing, you need puntingform.com.au. We'll take a break. Rugby league next. Welcome back to Little Birdie Podcast, a unique look into the world of sports betting from the eyes of pro punters. Mark the Kid MG, AFL Sting, is here with me, but it's Top Rope Tedeschi time. He takes centre stage, and we're talking all things rugby league. Top Rope, the first one, Joey Lulea from the West Tigers. Does he have the concrete boots on or what? It looked like a heavy 8 or heavy 10 up there for the West and Roosters game, but it looked like the Roosters players were operating on a fast 2. Their ball skills were absolutely electric, and poor old Joey and the rest of the West Tigers team, they are cactus.
A heavy 8. Are you one of the Victorian stewards there, Scooty? It was a heavy 10 attacky on a Friday afternoon, race 9 on the inside pitch. A heavy 14. The Tigers, absolutely legless at the moment. Leilua rightfully dropped this week. He is, the term enigmatic is thrown around a bit. I prefer to use the word, completely ordinary. That's 2 words, but anyway. He is lazy, he is dumb, and he got absolutely exploited last week by the Chooks. I think they scored 6 tries down his side. He was completely exposed, lazy off the ball, has been dropped this week. It was an idiotic decision by Coach Michael Maguire to play Joey and his brother on the same side. They've been absolutely thumped 2 weeks in a row. He's been dropped. He is no good. But you bring up a fair point there, Scoot. The gap between the best and worst teams in the comp this year is widening. And I am the number 1 ticket holder in the PVL cheerleader squad. But these new rules are certainly doing nothing for parity within the game, that's for sure.
Even Mark picked it up, didn't you, Mark?
Yeah, we watched a replay the other day of Roosters and West, and it's the difference is stark, isn't it? So,
it's crazy.
And you'd think as the year goes on with depth of players and things like that, it'll only get wider.
Yeah, and we picked up the Souths match as well, and those faster sides. And you nearly saw Storm play themselves out of an impossible position. The Parramatta Eels are up and about early, aren't they, top rope? But the Storm, South Sydney Rabbitohs and the Roosters, gee, they're quick and they look good when they've got the ball. And Panthers.
There's a clear probably top 5. You can probably put Parramatta in the top 6 at the moment, but is the Storm, South, Roosters, Penrith haven't conceded a point this year, and probably to a lesser degree the Raiders and the Eels are just blowing teams off the park. And the difference, there is no doubt that these new rules, as we saw on Thursday night, lead to fantastic games when there's two good teams playing each other. They lead to pretty good games when there are two ordinary sides playing. When a good side plays a bad side, the momentum is ridiculous. We've had 7 instances this year when a top 6 team from last year has played a bottom 6 team. The margins have been 8, 42, 24, 18, 28, 14, 34. That's 6 minuses covering out of 7. And 4 of those wins were away from home. So, and like the kid said, this is round 1 and round 2. Teams are pretty much full strength. As lists get tested, injuries take hold throughout the year, this is going to get worse. So, the rules are great when the good teams play each other, but when a good team plays a bad team, things are getting very ugly. And from a punting point of view, this will be take the minus until the bookies overreact. And I get the feeling it's going to be a while, but I don't know if they can make these lines big enough at the moment.
And what about you, Top Row? We're big about accountability and keeping people honest, but Penrith Panthers, you sort of had a bit of a slow for them this year. They've come out of the blocks. As you said, no one scored a point against them. What are your early thoughts?
They played the Cowboys and the Dogs, so my views haven't changed on Penrith too much, to be honest. Look, they've been good. I expect them to start the regular season pretty well. I think I had them in for 5th, so it wasn't too harsh on them. I think that their roster lacks a bit of depth. Cleary may be out this week. I'm not rushing to write them off and think they're going to miss the 8 or anything like that, but my views pre-season haven't changed. They've had no competition so far. So, and a little bit the same with the Roosters, to be honest. They've been super impressive in 2 wins. They're versus Manly and the Tigers. They haven't played anyone yet. So both of those teams have really impressed against ordinary sides. The one team I probably have changed my view on is perhaps Parramatta, who were really, really good against the Storm. They beat the Storm. Wasn't expecting it. They showed a patience and discipline, which has kind of been unlike Parramatta over the last few years. So not prepared to kind of talk them up, but I think they hadn't missed the 8 this year. They do certainly be part of the kind of elite 6 teams, that's for sure.
King Gutho and Sir Blake Ferguson are just playing out of their skin, aren't they?
Your man, Sir Blake, the most overpaid winger in the comp.
Oh, he needs it for that bent nose. Now, the Penrith Panthers, this is their litmus test. They got the Storm Thursday night. What an absolute cracking start. It's a cracking round of NRL, but I'm nearly a convert. The greatest game of all. It's now seeping into my melon. I'm a slow learner of it.
What do we need? What do we need, Stu? How do we get you over the line here?
I just need more TVs, I think, in the lounge room. And
South Premiership.
Let's have a look at the betting. Panthers Stadium Thursday night. We've got Penrith 185 into $1.83 at Top Sport, and the Storm are slightly easy 195 out to 197. Top Rope.
It won't surprise you. I like the Storm here. I think it's a cracking game. Grand final replay from last year. I think this game is pretty made. The Storm are in a good spot here. They are really good off a loss. They've covered 9 of their last 11 off a loss. They've covered 10 of 15 off a loss at night. They covered 6% away from Amy Park. Covered 12 of 18 off scoring 12 or fewer. Penrith have Cleary and Dowd who'll probably play. Look, they'll be up for this game. They go well at home, the Panthers, but I've got to be with the Storm in this one, particularly at odds against. They're definitely the day for one.
And the total started to get on the march there too, 40.5 to 38.5. How's Panthers Stadium going to cope with the wet?
It'll be an unders game for the life here. Clearly, best bet of this game. I think unders hit 13 of the last 19 clashes. It's 14-9 when Melbourne are off a loss. They buckle down. 11-5 when Penrith are off conceding 10 or fewer. The Panthers have gone well under in both games this year. I think it'll be a bit sloppy out there. I like the under a lot in this one.
Can't wait to watch this one. It's going to be a much better spectacle than Collingwood Carlton, that's for sure. So I will be dialing in, and my game of choice this week will be Penrith Panthers and Storm over the AFL. Now, Friday night, we've got the Mighty Bunnies, Scooty's team. We've got the Roosters 165, Boonwars 226, and the line 3.5. Top rope Tedeschi, Stadium Australia, Friday night.
Should be a ripping game. I would suggest this will be the game that will possibly indicate who the other grand finalists will be outside of the Storm. I like the Roosters in this one. Not a huge amount of confidence, but the Roosters were beaten 60-8 the last time these two teams met in round 20. That will have stung. That will have sat in the memory of the Roosters all summer. They've come out firing. Those two wins were absolutely aimed at getting to this match and being prepared to win this game. Victor Radley back, Angus Crichton back, a bit of money for the Chooks as well. What I like about the Roosters is they are excellent at holding form. They have covered 7 of 8 off scoring 40. They've covered 9 of 13 off conceding 6 or fewer. When they defend well, they attack well, that tends to hold up. So there's no knock on South. South have been very good in both games this year, but I think the Roosters are the value here. Best bet in the game there, the over. The over has hit in the last 3 between these two, in 18 and 12 since 2008. But it's in 12 of 18 Roosters night games, 53% when the South's an underdog in New South Wales. I think the over is a very nice bet in this one. What do we got the line at top sport now, Scooty?
43.5. So yeah, it's moved a little bit there, 42.5 to 43.5. But it's still an okay. It's still a soft number there. But it'd be interesting to see South Sydney on a complete bog against Manly. All I could think about was watching that replay was how good it'd be to be up in a corporate box and then kick onto Hugo's at Manly. I would have thought that would be the only play there. It'd be interesting to see how many of these sides are a bit leg weary. I know it's a little bit of a theory that we used to use in AFL matches, but nearly every side's coming off an absolute bog. But you'd hope Stadium Australia, we sort of describe it as a bit of a cow paddock when we watch GWS run around there. So hopefully they've got the drainage sorted there. Now
it's a very slow ground typically, ANZ. So that's always the worry. They didn't play there last week in the NRL, so. I am hopeful with you that the drainage will be pretty good there and it will be good to go. It hasn't had a lot of action lately.
They might not have kicked it up too badly. All right, the Milk, Canberra. Saturday afternoon, GIO Stadium at 3 o'clock. We've got Canberra 125, the Warriors $4, and it's a pretty big line here, 10.5 top rope. The total is 42.5. Thoughts here?
Yeah, give me the plus. I know we were talking about the minus, good team, very bad team. Warriors aren't a bad team. They sit probably in that echelon of teams kind of on the fringe of the 8. Canberra probably the bottom of those good teams. So I look close. I think there have been a couple of key outs for the Warriors. Chanel Harris-Tavita, the halfback, sidelined with a foot injury. Jermaine Tanua-Brown suspended. I think they're kind of covered for that okay, though. The Warriors have some really good numbers in this game. From a pure statistical point of view, the Warriors are a clear bet here. Covered 9 of their last 10 as a dog, 7 straight day games, 8 of 11 off a loss, 5 straight getting 8 or more points. The Raiders covered just 8 of 22 day games at Canberra, 19 of 46 on the market overrates the Raiders' home ground advantage. Always happy to bet against them, particularly as a big favourite at home. So I will be on the Warriors plus here, and I think they can keep this pretty tight.
And it's a pretty good weather forecast for Canberra as well. Let's kick across to the Saturday night game. We're just doing the blockbusters here. Blockbuster talent, Nick Tedeschi. You can get his full set on the Little Birdie shop for $55 for the first 6 rounds. So we're just dropping the prices. The rounds roll on. You can buy the whole season too if you're that way inclined. But we're going to cover the blockbusters. So Parramatta Eels versus Cronulla is another cracking game at 7:35 at Bankwest Stadium. We've got the Parramatta Eels 137. We've got Cronulla $3.10 and the line 7.5. Total 39.5. Top row. Bronson Sherry 4-year ban.
Yeah, 4-year ban. We've been seeing him for a while. Surprise! If there's one good bet you can get, it is betting the no change and an appeal in a drugs case. Jeez, have any of them ever looked? No, great history there. The Sharks might be the most disrespected team in betting in the NRL. I'm stunned at this line of 7.5. Absolutely stunned. I'm at this game, a 3.5 point game. The Sharks are probably just on the inside of the fringe 8 at the moment in terms of where they're on in power rankings. They're very good as an underdog. They've covered 58%, getting 4 or more. Did the job against the Raiders last week. Here are some numbers for the Eels that will really turn you off laying a big number here. They are 2-13 against the spread when favoured by 6.5 or more for a win. They are 5-19 against the spread when favoured by more than a converted try. They're not good. They're not good as big favourites. They are a team consistently overrated by the market. They will undoubtedly have been up for that Storm game. They hate the Storm probably more than any other team. I love the Sharkies here. Very, very keen on them. We'll be steaming into them.
And Top Rope GGOA subscribers would have already taken the flat 8 there. So the line is on the move, 8 into 7.5. The other big bet that Top Rope likes, from just a little sum up of his bets here, is the under 48.5 into 38.5 in the Storm Penrith game. So if you're watching that game on Thursday night, is the 38.5 still value? Would you still chime into the 38.5?
I would bet this down to 36. I think it is
36.
A very good bet at 38.5. This is not a weather-related bet. Any weather is just a bonus at the moment. I can see this game going well and truly under.
Fantastic stuff, Top Rope. If you want to check out more of his stuff, make sure you head to the Little Birdie shop. It is great value and very in-depth analysis. You get his full run sheets on all games, and it is great reading if you're into rugby league. Now, we're going to have to pull you up a little bit. The next segment we're talking about is Lock of the Week, and all proceeds of Lock of the Week go to raise.org.au. They're a mentoring program for kids in high school. They are quick on interventions to make sure that kids get back on the right track. It is a fantastic organisation, so we've chosen that as our charity. So once the Lock of the Week accumulators get to 5,000, let's hope we can get there, we're going to donate that $5,000 prize to raise.org.au, thanks to topsport.com.au. Now, Mark Goodwill, I sort of gave him a little bit of stick from last week. I bagged him a little bit. So it's $200 all up each week. So he's had his $200 on Richmond at $1.33 last week. They've SP'd $1.22. So he's got $266 to play with. And poor old Top Rope Tedeschi, he got the market right. There was the big money for New Zealand Warriors. He went very balls on the line early to just to try and one-up the AFL expert Mark, but it sort of bit him in the arse. So the Warriors, a bit unlucky last week, but Top Rope, you got to bounce back, and you need to do it for charity. So who is your $200 lock of the week? Are you going to pull your head in, or are you going to go large?
Do they have an intervention program for idiot gamblers? Because if they do, sign me up. I'm required. Look, I'm going to take a common sense approach this week. I'm going to take the lead of the great MG, and I'm just going to go because I'm going to get the feet moving to get the runs at the board. I'm going to be on Newcastle straight out. What about $1.30, $1.25 there, Scoot? Very concerning. Just want to give something for the kids. Got to get something for the kids.
Build the bank. I like it.
Build the bank. Back to the basics. 200 by $1.32. Newcastle Knights as lock of the week versus the West Tigers. All right, MG, showing a clean pair of heels out in front, $266 is your balance. The Tigers.
Showing pair. This is got exciting all of a sudden.
Very, very, very small lead, 1-0. I'm going to try and extend the lead a bit this week, put a bit of pressure on the Top Rope and get first the 5K mark. So I'm actually going to go a total this week at the $1.90.
Yep.
And my game's going to be Port against Essendon over the 176.5.
Over 176.5 on Port Adelaide versus Essendon. Fantastic stuff at Adelaide Oval there, and Orazio Fantasia will have to kick a hatful of goals. Controversial there. Top Rope, we'll let you move on with the rest of your life. Thanks for joining us yet again. Been fantastic. Can't wait for next week.
Always a pleasure, team. Can't wait for next week.
Our Lock of the Week segment is for raise.org.au. They are a charity that provides mentors for secondary school kids. We think it's a great way to spend our money from our accumulator section, but that's all we've got time for. Top Rope, fantastic. Very entertaining as usual, and we've had Mark's analysis on all of the AFL big issues, round 1, and a little bit of a preview for round 2. Make sure you head to the shop if you want their full betting, staking plans. These guys are some of the best in the business, that's for sure. Been a fantastic show. I've nearly killed you, Mark. No Darcy, and you've got this Melbourne strain of flu that's going around, this non-COVID cough. I think you're going to have to get on the Bonox and under the doona and just strap yourself in for a big week. And you've got the slipper on Saturday. That'll nearly kill you, big fella.
Yeah, let's not build it up too much. They might not let me into the state, New South Wales. So I'll be right to go. I'll shake it off today and tomorrow and be ready to go live Saturday. You'll see me reporting back next week with a few good stories, hopefully.
Should be very, very entertaining. Good luck to the crew. Profiteer, Roll the Dice Racing. They have got one of the hot pots, and he is all the rage at the moment. It's going to be interesting to see a couple of little angles if some of those horses haven't been able to work on some of those tracks up in Sydney, so be wary there. But great round of AFL and NRL. Can't wait for Panthers versus Storm. It's going to be an absolute cracker. Carlton Collingwood, traditional rivals, tee off for the first match there. So Thursday night footy, it is the absolute tonic after a gut full of maths all week. Sunday through to Wednesday, it is the perfect tonic. So make sure you grab that remote and you steer it all weekend. Head to the shop if you want the boys' tips, but like us, rate us, follow us on the Apple Podcast. We're on Spotify. You can watch us. You can see our ugly mugs on YouTube. We are everywhere, and we're on SoundCloud as well. So tune in and stay tuned to us. We'll see you next week. Happy punting.